So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Lucy Hodgson, who's director at Eastwood Insurance Brokers. So, firstly, Lucy, thank you for spending some time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, Eastwood, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Thank you, Chris. Well, yes, as you say, I'm Lucy Hodgson. I'm director of Eastwood Insurance Brokers in Huddersfield. I've been with the business for about, will be 20 years this year, but I've been in the insurance industry itself for about 32 years. We are commercial and corporate insurance brokers. We also do private clients. We do credit insurance, health and safety, financial services, anything to do with insurance, and we do it. We believe in, as I say, we're independent, which is really important to us. I would say, and I have to say, my colleagues would be cross with me if I didn't use this word. We're fiercely independent.
Great.
And we believe in looking after people. So whether that's our clients, or whether it's the people that work for us, it's all about people for us really, and doing as good a job for them as we possibly can. I think one thing that I'm really proud of actually, in the company, that we have a wellbeing committee as we call it, but we decided to give the wellbeing committee a name, so we now call it Thrive. So Thrive with Eastwoods. And we like to use that in terms of, yeah, let's hope our people thrive, but we want to see our clients thrive as well.
Love it, absolutely love it, and that comes across with the passion that you said it. And so just sort of for anyone watching, what would make a great client for you? Who are the sorts of people or businesses or individuals that you serve best? Would you say what might stand them out?
I wouldn't say there's a particular industry or anything, because sometimes people say to us, do you specialize in a certain niche of insurance? And I always just say we specialize in insurance broking, which probably sounds a bit a bit obvious, but we do. Clearly, there are some brokers out there that do specialize, but no, we
Yes,
specialize in insurance broking. We specialize in finding risk solutions for businesses, essentially. It's as basic as that. I'd say the ideal client is somebody who wants to engage with us, and they want to see us as part of their team. They want to
great.
see us as their professional advisor. I think sometimes insurance gets a little bit of a bad name. Nobody wants to buy insurance, do they, at the end of the day? But it can get very much about price, who's the cheapest. But obviously, the cheapest isn't always the best.
Yep.
And we like to build relationships with people who trust us to do a good job for them, and that we can get
Brilliant.
to know them and they can get to know us as well. So be their trusted advisors, be a part of their team, I would say, is our ideal client.
Love it, absolutely love it. So maybe Lucy, if we start, you mentioned a little bit about background, but if we could look backwards and talk a little bit more about your background, how you got into business, and why this particular one for you.
Okay, well, my background is Halifax born and bred. So obviously I work in Huddersfield, but I'm a Halifax girl, born and bred, very proud of my hometown. Um, I like to be involved in everything that's going on around me. You could say I'm nosy, but I like to just say I'm interested. I belong to Rotary in Halifax. I was a trustee of Overgate Hospice for a number of years, and I'm now a trustee of a local almshouse charity where I've been involved in modernising its structure. But my parents have the same philosophy as me around helping the community and community involvement. And this is where I suppose my interest in insurance came from my dad, actually. And I'm quite unusual because most people will tell you that they fell into insurance. I decided when I was 8 years old that I wanted to be an insurance broker, and that is a very
Brilliant.
weird decision. I just wanted to do what my dad did, and I
Love it.
clearly didn't understand what insurance was at that time. But I knew I wanted to do what he did. So I started. I used to just work for him in my holidays and things. Even when I was 8, I used to go into the office and just sit with the receptionist. But when I got older, I worked for him. And then when I was 18, I decided not to go to university and get a job working in the insurance industry, because that's what I wanted to do, obviously. But I didn't want to just go and work for my dad straight away. So I got myself a job working for an insurance company in Leeds. After 4 years, joined my dad, and then our business ended up merging with another local firm in Halifax. And eventually, we were sold for lots of reasons, which are not relevant today. Sold to one of the consolidating firms of insurance brokers. Um, Having gone from a very much, very independent environment, this consolidated business just didn't sit right with me at
Yeah.
all. I didn't feel at home there anymore. And so I thought, well, actually, this isn't my family business anymore. I don't have to be here.
Brilliant.
So I put my CV out there and had conversations with a number of insurance brokers actually. But as soon as I came to meet John Eastwood, actually in the room I'm sitting in now, although it does look a bit different, there used to be, had it been the old room, there would have been a picture of Napoleon behind me rather than
Right.
a scene of Huddersfield. But anyway, I came to meet John Eastwood back in 2006 and just felt at home here straight away. And so I joined the business. About 5 years later, I became a director. Then I became a shareholder. And yeah, I think my enthusiasm for insurance and Eastwoods has continued. And yeah, I love the industry that I'm in, and I love the firm I work for.
Wow, what a great yeah, what a great response. It's yeah, I can see, your passion for what you do, and as you said, Eastwood itself come shining across. And I guess, looking backwards, there's been challenges. What are some of the biggest challenges and issues you've had to overcome over time?
Yes, I've been quite fortunate in that I've been lucky enough to have always really worked in supportive environments where I've been encouraged to thrive. Um, I know you could speak to perhaps other ladies who will say they've come up against certain barriers and things, but I've been very lucky in that I haven't. I've had some amazing male bosses actually. Haven't really had any female bosses, but I've had some amazing male bosses who have always encouraged me and supported me in what I
Brilliant.
wanted to do and in my ambition. So I think I've been lucky in terms of challenges, but I think something that I still have, and I think is very common, is imposter syndrome. I think we all suffer from that,
Yeah,
really. Just thinking about doing this podcast, why would anybody want to listen to what I have to say about anything? But I guess, I've been doing this 32 years, so hopefully I've got maybe something to say.
absolutely.
Um, but I think from a challenge point of view, it's something that happened to me quite recently, actually. So I've been lucky enough to enjoy, reasonably good health in my 50 years. Um, but last year, all of a sudden, I suffered a detached retina and I lost all the sight in one of my eyes. And it happened very, very quickly. And I won't bore you with the backstory to it, but essentially, the doctors, consultants, nurses at Calderdale Royal at the ophthalmology saved my sight, and they were absolutely amazing. I've had to have two operations, but thankfully my sight's okay now. But that really hit me like a steam train because it made me realize that I'm actually not invincible.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I actually had to switch off work for a few weeks, which I found incredibly hard. But it also gave me too much time to think. And I think, the outcome could have been so different. I could have, if they hadn't managed to save the retina, I could have lost the sight in my eye. And I started dwelling because I had all this time. I started dwelling on what could have happened. I started catastrophizing.
Yeah.
But I decided that the only way to get my head out of this was to just do something else. So I just started walking. And I used to go just originally, like initially, I could only walk a little way because I was still recovering from the operation. But I just started walking a bit more and more, and I was walking miles. And just getting out into the fresh air just made me have a new perspective on it and made me realize actually you haven't lost the sight in your eye. You're very lucky. Um, just, be grateful to what you have. Be grateful that they did actually save your sight and stop worrying about what could happen in the future. I think
Mm.
I've also been lucky in that I haven't, I've had the odd down day as we all do, but I haven't had any huge mental health struggles in my life, but I could see that what happened to me last year could have really turned into something in that nature. But thankfully, I could see what was going on, and as I say, decided just to start taking myself out of my head, going walking. And yeah, so now I'm feeling okay. My sight's okay. I'm okay, but I think it's help. I do have to keep reminding myself sometimes that it's important just to take time out just for
Yes.
me.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense. And what an interesting story. And yes, I think one of the things I find is it's really important that we look after ourselves for others as much as ourselves, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah,
People oriented
definitely.
people often think about others, but others want us to be healthy and fit
Mm,
and there for them. But it's quite easy to think we're helping them by allowing our health or anything else to reduce. Goodness, that's quite fascinating and great to hear how much of a supportive environment that you've had because it's I was literally having a conversation with somebody this morning about leadership and one of the things that he said was very much about great leaders create supportive and supportive but often challenging environments as well. It's sort of that
Yeah,
combination of the two.
yeah,
But challenge in a positive way, not challenge.
yes,
Challenges. You're great. Maybe we can be better though. So and I think once we've got that environment, it really helps people flourish.
yes, it does definitely. Yeah, I certainly need an element of pressure to thrive. Definitely.
Brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant. Um, and so, what would you say? Just looking at again, both from potential challenges, but also the successes you've had. Would you say the biggest learnings you've got about growing a business, a successful business, Lucy?
These learnings. I think just think that everybody really is trying to do their best. And sometimes, but even though we're all trying to do our best and we all think we know what we're doing, sometimes things don't go to plan. So I think it's about trying not to dwell on failure. I know that's
Great.
very easy to say and not easy to do. But take the positives you can from it, learn from the negatives, and try and move forward. Somebody I know uses an expression which I know is very well known, but fail. If you fail, it's the first attempt in learning. So I think
Yep.
that's a really interesting thing. And also when you're growing a business that, people matter, people really matter, whether that's your family, your friends, your colleagues, your clients, your business partners, everybody matters. And treat those people as you would want to be treated yourself. And I think as well, if something goes wrong, deal with it quickly. When you're building a business, growing a business, you need to accept that you sometimes don't get it right all the time. And if you make a mistake and you do something wrong, own up to it straight away because it will never get better by being left.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. It's I couldn't agree more. And you bring to mind a couple of things that have been said to me over time. So our founder, a guy called Brad Sugars, who's a very successful guy. He said to me many years ago that he believed he was as successful as he was because he'd made more mistakes than anybody else he knew. Not
Yeah,
despite, but because, and it was because I think it's the willingness to allow ourselves and others to go past it, go that extra step past our comfort zone and be
yeah,
willing to make a mistake because that's where innovation happens typically. So,
it
and
is.
the other story I heard actually, which I thought is fascinating, and it was years ago, and I think it was one of the big software companies that maybe someone going back years ago, maybe someone like Hewlett Packard or something like, and whenever somebody new joined, they gave them they I think they gave them from the Monopoly game a get out of jail free card,
Right, okay.
and they literally said when you make a big mistake we just come in, tell us that, hand this down, there'll be no repercussions. Tell us what the mistake is and tell us what you've learned from it. And it just created this environment of people being comfortable of doing things and because ultimately that, as I said, that's where for me where innovation often happens is people trying things that they haven't tried before but feeling confident and comfortable.
Yeah,
um
totally.
but for that
Yeah, I mean,
sorry, go on.
I was going to say people, again, it's probably a cliche, but people say, don't they, that comfort zone, is it a comfort zone's a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It all happens
Mm.
outside our comfort zone, unfortunately.
Yes, it does.
And
Yeah,
and
it
and,
does.
it, and I say unfortunately just because it is naturally uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I think I can't remember who coined the phrase of becoming comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes. Yeah.
Is part of it. Interesting enough, you said not focusing on failure or mistakes or whatever. I think there's a couple of great videos, but there's one great video of I think it's Roger Federer, the tennis player,
Yeah.
and he basically says he lost 50. It was something like he only won 52% of his shots, so
Right.
48% failed.
Yes.
And yeah, he's one
Amazing.
of the most successful tennis players ever. And he said if I focused on the missed shots, I probably would never have made as many of the winning shots as I made. Something
Right.
along those
Okay.
lines. It's a great little thing. If you search for it, you'll find it. But it's really interesting that it's not focusing on the failures. I think there's another famous quote by the basketball player Michael Jordan that said something similar, that I've lost as many games as I've won, and these sorts of things. But it is about not letting things get in the way. So
Yeah.
brilliant.
Mm.
And sort of continuing slightly the sporting thing. Um, and I think you're aware we're a business coaching organisation. I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, or life in general. Who's had the biggest impact on you?
This maybe sounds like a little bit off field, really, but or left field, as whatever the expression is. But um, one of the people who's had the most impact on me, kind of away from work, actually. There's been lots of people in work that have had impacts on me, of course there have, but of course there has. But a former Sergeant Major from the Coldstream Guards called Paul Finley is probably the person that's had the biggest impact on me. For the last 15 years, I've been involved. I mentioned right at the beginning that I'm involved in Rotary,
Yes,
and I've been involved in running a youth leadership program for the last 15 years called the Rotary Youth Leadership Awards, or RYLA for short. Um, we're going through quite a lot of changes at the moment, but Paul was our chief instructor. He's been our chief instructor for, I don't know, 32 years, and certainly for the 15 I've been involved in it. And I spent 2 weeks every year with him running the program,
brilliant.
looking after 64 teenagers over the course of the 2 weeks. He wasn't an official coach as such, but I've learned so much about myself from the time I was lucky enough to spend with him. Um, what my strengths are, how I manage situations under pressure, how to approach solving problems, and how to, I suppose, reflect on mistakes productively. He remains and will always be one of the best people I know. And I'm so glad that when I was asked, did I want to get involved with Ryder all those years ago by my friend Ken, that I said yes. And Yeah, I mean, when I was first asked about it, it was basically it's a scout hostel in the middle of a midge-infested wood, sleeping in a bunk bed, which doesn't sound that appealing to be fair, but it's definitely one of the best things I've ever been
Brilliant.
involved in. And if you think about, I know we briefly talked before we started the podcast about any favorite quotes or sayings that I have, and I just have a thing now of saying yes to things rather than no. That's kind of my approach to life, is to say yes rather than no.
Great.
Clearly, I don't mean that applies to illegal things, but say
No,
say yes to things. If somebody invites you to do something and you don't think you know how to do it, well, give it a go and do your best,
brilliant.
because they've asked you for a reason. They haven't asked you because they think you're going to do a bad job. They've asked you because they know that either you can do it, or if you're not quite sure, that you'll work out a way that you can do it. So I think that's kind of say yes rather than no, and that's really why I got involved with Ryla, and it's turned out to be one of the best things in my life.
Brilliant. Love it. That's one of my favourite things to do as well, is I always say, as you rightly say, just say yes. Because unfortunately it's really interesting, because the brain tends to lead itself to want to find the negatives and therefore want to say no. So
Yeah.
it's like, if it just, the default is yes. And funnily enough, I didn't realise till after I decided to sort of adopt that phrase myself, is there is a film called The Yes Man, which you may or may not be aware of. And it's just a comedy. It's got, I think it's Jim Carrey in it, but it's a comedy of someone that's gone from saying no to yes, and all the challenge, all the funny things that
Yeah,
go wrong, and then
yeah,
how it
sure.
works out in the end. So I could definitely recommend, if you ever fancy an interesting film. So yeah, favorite quotes would be just say
Yeah.
yes.
Say yes. Yeah, definitely. Say yes.
Brilliant. And any favorite, and on the sort of learning front, any favorite books or podcasts you can recommend about business success, or just from life in general, things that you enjoy?
I don't tend to listen to business podcasts. I suppose I should. No, I shouldn't confess that I don't. I do sometimes, but
It's okay.
I don't listen to a lot of podcasts in general. I'm learning Spanish at the moment, so I am listening to a few Duolingo podcasts, I have to say.
Brilliant.
But I do enjoy reading. Reading is one of the best ways to relax, I think, for me, because it takes me out of the world that I live in and takes me completely into a different world. So, but I don't want things that are too challenging, which is probably why I don't read a lot of business books either, really. But I love crime drama. So I think one of my favorite books or series of books is set in Northumberland, and it's about a policeman called, I think it's Chief Inspector Ryan, and it's a series of books written by a lady called L.J. Ross, and I think there's about 24 books in this
Oh
series.
wow,
Once you start reading it, you can't stop.
brilliant.
Funnily enough, we're having an event at work in a few weeks. We keep trying to do a few, bits and pieces, and we're having for Valentine's Day, we're having a blind date with a book. So the idea is that you bring a book in, wrap it up, and put something on the cover on the package to say like a brief synopsis of what it's about, and then you can bring a book in and you can take one away. So
Oh
I've
brilliant.
brought in L.J. Ross and her first book, which I think it's called Holy Island. But whoever gets that is going to hate me because they're going to have to then go on to buy another 23 books. But for me, reading is escapism. I think it's the
Yeah,
best form of
brilliant.
escapism. And I do listen to podcasts and webinars, and I read business communications whilst I'm at work. But when
I,
I'm at home, it's
totally.
escapism, really. Yeah,
No, I totally agree. I mean, it's what's the purpose? I mean, there are very few business books that are written in a way that might create escapism. It's a very different thing. It's
yeah,
information, it's learning, it's those sorts of things. But
yeah,
we do need that escapism and get away. And as you say, the brain's such an amazing thing to create these pictures. I'm very visual, so I do tend to watch films and things, and it's a watching thing. But
yeah.
the most creative part is our brain being able to create these pictures in our mind, isn't it? Of we're trying to build what we're reading. That's wonderful.
Yes, yeah.
And equally on the learning front, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far, Lucy?
I think that I need to be busy and productive to get the best out of myself. And I think, as I said earlier, I need an element of pressure to enable me to perform at my best. I've learned that I can have difficult conversations when necessary, that I'm competitive. I like to win, but I can't win all the time, as much as I'd like to. And I think that I'm definitely a people person, and I love to see people do well.
Love it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And we have a definition of a business of a true business in action coach, and it's basically a true business for us is a commercial profitable enterprise that works without its owners and leaders. And I'm keen to know what your thoughts are on that.
Um, Works without them. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing about being a leader is that, you don't have to know all the answers. And
Brilliant.
whilst you can be there guiding, you want people in your team that actually can do the job. Um, Somebody once said to me that you should be able to delegate as much as you possibly can to make their jobs interesting so that you're left with only the things that only you can do. And I thought that was quite an interesting way of looking at it. So, if I'm not here, the business doesn't stop. It carries on.
Yes.
Everybody knows they all know what they're doing. Our chairman, John Eastwood, has other business interests, which he obviously enjoys as well as our business. And, he leaves it in our hands to keep the business moving forward. So,
Brilliant.
yeah, delegate, make everybody's jobs interesting, and yeah, I think it just works for everybody that way.
I love that, and it's really interesting. 'Cause, I mean, in what I do a lot of work with busy business people who are currently doing too much, and that's a very that's quite a common factor. And there's a great quote that I use a lot from a guy called Brian Tracy, and he says the most effective organisations and teams are the ones where most people spend most of their time doing the three things they really love and they're really good at,
Mm.
and it just creates that great environment. But your point there is a lot of people, and I find this too much, a lot of people don't delegate because they're delegating things they don't like, and they think they're giving somebody else the thing they don't like that they won't enjoy it, and it's rarely true that somebody whatever we don't like somebody else will love. It,
Yes,
it's
exactly.
for it's firstly to understand that. But your point, I love that quote. So it's give them things that will make their life more interesting because that's really interesting, isn't it? That will challenge
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, it
Um,
does challenge because otherwise, if you keep all the good stuff for yourself, then they get bored.
yes, absolutely, absolutely, brilliant, love it. I think
And
that's
sorry, I'm interrupting you, but I think my job as well is as a leader is to think of new ways that we can do things or think of new directions that we can go in. And if I'm busy all the time, kind of with my head down and not looking up, and I think, that doesn't help either. So you have to have
no,
that, you have to create yourself some breathing space sometimes to be able to think about how to move forward, just to keep the business moving forward.
Brilliant, brilliant. So looking forward, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
I think, well, the future looks bright. But
Brilliant.
I think one of the main challenges that we have in the insurance industry is that, not everybody makes the decision to be an insurance broker when they're 8 years old, and trying to make insurance look like an attractive proposition isn't easy. I mean, over the last 15 years, I've probably seen I don't know, probably 1,000 16 and 17-year-olds, and not one of them has ever said to me that they want a career in insurance, which I think is really sad. Now, things are getting a lot better. I mean, as a business, we offer apprenticeship. Offer an apprenticeship program, so we're kind of growing our own future talent.
Yes, brilliant.
And I think that's really important. I mean, some brokers say to me, "Well, why are you spending money, using resource, taking time to train people? They'll just leave and go and work somewhere else." And you think, well, it's a really negative way to think about it. I can't guarantee that none of them will leave, but I would hope that we can make their lives interesting here, with progression for them that they won't want to. You can't start with that negative mindset, otherwise, what's the point? You have to train young people, or any people, not just young people. But that's why I think it's important for us, for our future, for the succession of the business, that we are bringing people into the business, and that we are growing our own talent, and not just growing it, but continuing to develop it as well. I think training and development is something that's really close to our hearts in our business. And but yeah, the talent gap in the insurance industry
Right.
is a problem. But I think that's probably replicated in lots of other industries as well. But I mean, at my age, there's quite a lot of my contemporaries now that are starting to think about retirement.
Yep.
There's going to be a huge drain. It's already starting,
Yes.
the brain drain from the industry. So we have to start replacing that talent, and we take that responsibility seriously.
Brilliant. I think it's a really, I've seen lots of organizations do the same and train them ourselves because we can
Yeah.
find bright, capable people. And the also it's probably an obvious benefit, but we're teaching people how to do it our way rather than how to do it anyway. And I think finding enthusiastic people, we've always had the belief in our organization that traditional recruitment typically is recruiting on experience, but sacking on attitude. So let's start with great attitude because you can typically train skills and experience. If you can get both, wonderful. If you get great attitude and great experience, wonderful. But if we're short of one, then the most important thing is great attitude and giving people great opportunities. I think is great. And that
Mm.
you do remind me of a quote which doesn't quite fit exactly what you said, but it is. So our founder was once asked. Somebody said to him. Brad, if I the trouble I've got is if I train people up, they leave.
Mm.
And Brad said, yeah, but if you don't train them, they stay.
So that's a really good point. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like it's like
yeah.
do we want a bunch of untrained people? But I honestly believe, and I think this is the thing to overcome is if we train people, if we invest in people, we earn and we get loyalty. Not everybody. That doesn't mean everybody gets trained and will stay. Absolutely not. But I think it's the comfort that we're doing the right thing by people and having a culture. And you've already said that several times about helping and supporting people both inside and outside the organisation. People stay. People get that. And it's a match of values that keep people in an organisation, not a match of not much more than any other thing that being educated in what we do, being trained, is going to take them somewhere else. It really isn't. And
Yeah, yeah, agree.
probably the people that do leave aren't as close a match to the culture of your organisation as the ones that stay.
Mm.
I would
Yeah.
suggest.
Mm.
So it's great to see you doing that.
Mm.
Um, Final question, Lucy. What would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that?
I think, yeah, it's interesting. Ignore the pressure and negativity from my school when I decided not to go to university. Yeah, I went to a private girls' school, and they were very upset with me when I said I wasn't going to university. They couldn't care less whether it was the right thing for me or not. It was just about figures and stats, and
Yes.
you
Yeah.
have to go to university. You should. I won't say the name of the school. That's unfair.
No. Okay.
But when I chose not to go to university, yeah, they were really quite disgusted with me. to the extent that actually when it was speech day and I was going to this theatre they'd hired to go and collect my A-level certificates, they nearly didn't let me on the stage because I was wearing trousers, would you believe? And they had this strict dress code at school that you could not wear trousers, you had to wear skirt or dress. And because I'd been at work all day and I was wearing a trouser suit, I was, 18 years old, thinking I'd look really smart for work. They nearly didn't let me on the stage to collect my A-level certificates. So I would say, yeah, ignore the pressure and negativity from your school. You're making the right decision to get a job in the industry that you want to work in. And yeah, just keep being you and involve yourself in as many things as you possibly can.
Love it. Well, great advice for anybody. Absolutely wonderful. Lucy, it's been delightful for talking to you today. Thank you for spending some time and sharing some of your thoughts. And for anyone that's watching would like to get in touch with you or Eastwoods, what would be the best way of doing that?
Well, my email address is lucy.hodgson@eastwoodib.co.uk. I'm also on LinkedIn under Lucy Hodgson, surprisingly enough. Or just look at the Eastwood Insurance Brokers website and the telephone number for the company is on there.
Brilliant. Well, look, it'd be
Thank you for
great to
talking
swing
to
by
me.
another 612. Sorry,
As I say, thank you for talking to me. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
it's been delightful. And be good to swing by another 6, 12 months to just see how things are developing and any new things that you've learned or achieved. But for now, thank you so much for your time.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.